Hi, everyone. This is Dan Gerard coming to you from the G9 Millbury office. Hope everyone is well and practicing their social distancing. Today, we kind of further our conversation with members of our dream team. We have with us today Michael Crotty, managing partner of G9 Financial. Mike is coming to us from our Franklin office. And then we also have Jen Fay from the law firm of Fay Eberly. Jen is an estate planning attorney and a key member of and partner of our dream team, has been so for many years. What is our dream team? For those who don't know what our dream team is, it's really what we call the people we know and trust list. Those who've been through our planning process know that we talk about estate planning and mortgages and accounting from that perspective, but Mike and I and our team here are not those type of professionals. We are your financial planning professionals. However, we need to make sure we have key people that we know and trust that can help the clients that we serve. And Jen is part of that team, in addition to other mortgage professionals and attorneys and accountants and landscapers for that matter, and plumbers. For those who have worked with us, understand that our responsibilities to the clients that we serve come with providing proper guidance, education, strategies, and concepts. And we're doing these type of video conversations today and future ones to come because there are positive planning opportunities that are out there in today's environment. So with that, Jen, if you want to just give us a high-level overview of who you are and who you work with, that'd be great. And I got a couple questions to ask you also.
Sure. My name is Jennifer Fay. I'm a partner and co-owner at Fay Eberly, LLP. We are an estate and Medicaid planning law practice. We only exclusively practice estate and Medicaid planning. So if people call with divorce needs or DUIs or things like that, we don't do that. But we focus primarily on creating estate planning documents, wills, trusts, things like that, handling probates, trust administrations, guardianships, things like that. So that's pretty much what we do.
So Jen, is a question for you, and we get this from time to time. Mike, I think you would agree. We're dealing with a young family, and we go through the process saying, hey, have you done a will or a trust, a power of attorney, whatever those legal documents are, and they might say, well, geez, aren't they too young? So the question is someone too young to have an estate plan?
We get that one a lot. The age that you need to start considering estate planning is really 18 years old, which sounds really odd to folks because you're never going to get an 18-year-old to plan. But the minute you're an adult and you have to make decisions for yourself and no one can make them for you, then you need to be able to legally appoint someone to do so. So my young families often say, well, we don't have stuff. We don't have any houses yet. We're renting, or we don't have any assets. Well, while that may be true, you have children potentially, and you have lives. And if you're incapacitated or you pass away, there needs to be someone in place to make decisions for you, for your children, someone to take them in. And so while you may not have stuff yet, you still have things that are important to you. So there's really no too young unless you're less than the age of an adult, and then you can't plan. So 18 is really the beginning point where you need powers of attorney and healthcare proxies, people to make decisions if you're incapacitated. And then you start to get a little older and you build on that.
It's a great point. Jen, what about a timeline? So someone says they can start working with you, and from a timeline perspective, under normal circumstances, and then we'll come back and ask about today's environment, what does a timeline for an estate plan typically take?
Sure. So in our office, we take about a month, and that's a initial consult. And then about 2 weeks later, we do a phone call to follow up to make sure we accurately depicted what it is they wanted to accomplish. And then 2 weeks later, folks come in and sign and take their documents home. And so at that point, they're pretty much done from a legal standpoint. There is a financial end to that they need to work on. But from the legal standpoint, it takes about a month. We can do it faster if there's like a need or an especially important situation.
Sure.
But on a normal day, when there's no rush or excitement, it's about a month.
Now, Jen, what about today's environment? With COVID-19, obviously family dynamics are changing dramatically for some folks. is what's different today?
I think people are acutely aware of their mortality in this moment. And I think the idea of procrastination is sort of creeping up on folks. They've thought it's not me, it's not going to happen to me. And so they've sat back and they've waited, and now there's an urgency to this and there's an unknown. So we're moving as quickly as we can with folks. So if they come in, this process can take as little as a few days or a week if the need be, because it's a little more urgent. And the longer we wait, the more dangerous it is. And that procrastination becomes an uncertainty. Are you safe? Well, we don't know. And that's why we're all sitting at home. So we try to move this along a little bit quicker now.
Sure.
And how are you guys working now during this? Has it changed for you and your clients?
Drastically. So everything's virtual. So from start to finish, the process begins on a phone call or a video conference, whatever somebody's most comfortable with. And then it can end with a signing virtually. It has to be a video conference. And we are able to give folks their documents and sign them virtually. So they are from start to finish, they're able to complete everything. And then at the end, when things are lifted and everyone can be released back into the world, we'll meet with everybody who wants to and go back over everything so they feel comfortable.
Great. Jen,
What documents?
Sorry, Mike, go ahead. No, Mike, go.
What documents do they get when they come out of that process? What are the main documents within an estate plan?
So at a minimum, folks should be looking at having a power of attorney that names someone to make their legal, real estate, and financial decisions if they're incapacitated. They should be looking at having the appropriate healthcare documents, so someone to make their healthcare choices if they're incapacitated. And either a will or a trust, or sometimes both, or multiple trusts, depending on what their needs are. But at a minimum, a will dictating, hey, this is who's going to handle my assets when I pass away, and this is who I want to receive them, so that they have at least identified the important people. And for my young couples, they need to identify who their guardians of their children are going to be if something happens to them. A lot of folks are forgetting that piece of things. And if you're incapacitated or you've passed away, you don't want the court getting involved with managing your kids or putting them in foster care for even a night. Yeah. So those ones become the most important.
Jen, I get it. People don't quite understand that they do have a will that the state of Massachusetts puts in place for them.
Yes.
It goes through the courts, and they're the ones making the decisions about their family and their children.
So I always make that joke. When I give a seminar, I always make that joke. And I say, don't worry, if you don't have a will, that's okay. The state will write one for you, and they will, but they'll decide where things will go, and they'll decide who gets it. And sometimes that doesn't work for folks when they might not want a sibling or a child or a parent receiving their funds, or their children for that matter.
So the follow-up to the other one during this time, who are you working with now? Obviously, everyone's stuck at home, and I would assume some of that procrastination has stopped for some people.
Yes.
And I'm assuming some people aren't even thinking about this, that now is a time that they could execute this stuff. So who have been the biggest categories that you're still continuing to work with?
Sure. So I thought initially that our biggest categories were going to be the 16 over group, because that was who the government's really been discussing was at the greatest risk. Yeah. The people I'm finding most frequently in my virtual office are young folks who have young children who are starting to recognize that there's some scary moments happening and that we're not all invincible. And even though you might be only 25 or 30, you're no longer invincible.
Yeah.
I'm also getting a lot of essential workers. So the doctors, the nurses, the janitorial staffs, the truckers, those folks who are out there every single day in the world, touching things and having that sort of uncomfortable feeling about their safety and the safety of their families. And I am getting some older crowds that are usually having existing documents and who are looking at those documents saying, ooh, these may not be the choices I would make today that I made 5 years ago or 10 years ago.
Hey, Jen, just one last point, because the state of Massachusetts just had some legislation passed this week about how to notarize
yes.
documents. So can you just touch on that briefly?
Sure. So there's going to be a longer process. We've just started it. So we have a sort of queue of a number of people who have started their planning documents and now need to sign them, but we couldn't do it until now. So it's a whole process by which we mail the clients their documents. We go over them in a phone call or conference. And then we have virtual witnesses and notaries. And we have paperwork we have to keep now that says, okay, this was during the pandemic. We've signed it. We've kept it. We have to hold things up to the screen and take screenshots of it. Wow. So it's a whole process, and I think it's new to everybody, but if you take it step by step, it will be very effective.
So in short, you can still put, even though you're not physically meeting people to notarize documents to make them official, it's still getting, because that legislation passed, still able to be done. Exactly,
which is great, because before it was you have documents, but they're not official. Mm-hmm. And now these will be just as official as if you sat down right in front of me and 2 witnesses and signed it in the office.
That's great. That's awesome.
It's been fantastic, because I was getting worried. It's been taking far too long. I thought we'd have had this by now, and so things have backed up for folks.
Sure. Well, Jen, we really appreciate you jumping on with us, with Mike and I, to host this video series with us and be a part of this video series with us. So in conclusion, folks, I hope you found this information helpful. Should you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to Mike, myself, or our team here at G9 Financial, and or reach out to Jen directly. Jen, the website, fayeberly.com is yep. How to get a hold of you guys, or contact us, and we can always put you in contact with Jen and her team at Fay and Eberly.
Absolutely. You can call us, email us. I think we've got a fe@fayeberly.com email address now that's a little more straightforward and easy to spell. So if anybody needs anything, we're happy to answer any questions. And thank you so much for having us.
Awesome, Jen. Awesome. Thank you.
Thanks, Jen.
Thanks, guys.
Appreciate it. Thanks, everybody. Be safe. Stay healthy out there.
Bye now.